the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 remains the most trusted, credible, and reliable media source in Southern California for African Americans and beyond. Furthermore, 80% of those surveyed agree that outlets like KBLA Talk 1580 provide honest and authentic content about the issues most important to the Black community directly from Black journalists who understand the issues that need to be addressed. At KBLA Talk 1580, we remain committed to curating conversations that matter to you. Thank you for your continued support. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. The station that sounds like the city looks.
First things first.
Things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not too unserious. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First Black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique DePrima go way back. Tag Smiley making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. We're hosted Black and Brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the movement. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique DePrima. Go sis.
First things first.
KBLA Talk 1580. Good morning and God bless. I'm Dominique DePrima. The show is called First Things First, and my first thing today and every day, giving thanks to God, giving praises, asking for the blessings of the Most High, asking for the blessings of the community, the elders. Let's go. Let's do this. Happy Monday. We have a lot to talk about, as always. You know how we do this. Hour one, we stick to the local. We sweep around our own front door. Hour two, we go national, international, and beyond. And in the third hour, we do a deep dive with a person or persons of interest. Today is a messy Monday. We do that the second to the last Monday of the month is a messy Monday. And that's when I get my opinionated friend to give their take on relationships and dating. Sometimes they're new friends, sometimes they're friends I have never met before. Today we'll be talking with a social media influencer called Austin Holloman. And that should be quite an adventure. Someone I haven't met before, but certainly who has a lot to say about relationships in general and Black women in particular. Joining me now, though, we have a pastor called into the ministry at the age of 8 in his hometown back in Atlanta, Georgia. He was licensed to preach by 13 and ordained at 17. In 2016, he organized the Yes We Can Worship Center. His mission is to serve. He feeds a catered meal to the Unhoused every Friday night at 7, along with some gospel. And as a result of spending some time in his earlier life inside the prison system, he has produced a podcast from his home focusing on lawyers and issues that pertain to the unhoused. Pastor Sherman Manning, welcome.
Good morning.
Great to see you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
We do have a lot to talk about for those who have missed you other times. It just hit me that you call your place Yes We Can Worship Center. You don't call it a church. Is that intentional?
Divine, not intentional on my behalf, because it is the name that God gave me for the church. And trust me, I catch heat from a lot of local pastors. And
they want you to call it a church.
Yes, absolutely.
Why is that?
Traditionalism.
I got you.
Even friends of mine, I was at a church a few weeks ago, and he was announcing that I was preaching for him. And he said, yes, we can ministry. He said, yes, we can everything he could say except worship center. And I was wondering, did he have a problem with the worship center? You know, Christ is the center of my worship, and we come there to worship him. So it's not a name that I devised on my own. It was given to me in the spirit. And so a lot of the traditional guys have a problem with that, but that hasn't.
That's interesting. I was just thinking maybe, because you do work a lot with a lot of the unhoused and people that have different kinds of issues, that perhaps you were trying to make it less intimidating or more kind of open, to seem more open.
Well,
I'm
I
not
wish,
really
honestly,
sure.
I could take the credit. But
Yeah.
again, it was divine. It was something that God gave. I dreamed, and when I woke up, that was the name that He had given me in a vision, so to speak. And so, but we do, quite frankly, have a church full of people who have come from the streets. I looked at the service last Friday. We had a full house. I mean, God is really, really blessing. And I saw gangbangers. I saw ex-prostitutes, ex-prisoners, all coming into the house of God, worshiping Him in song and in prayer and in sermon. And I was thinking, when you were giving the introduction, I was reading an article yesterday about the prison to homelessness pipeline, and I'm very, very troubled by that. Statistically speaking, about 1 in 5 of every homeless person in Los Angeles has done time in prison. California is one of the only states that does not require housing as a part of your parole package. In Georgia, Illinois, and many other states, when you get ready to parole, you have to have housing secured, family member, so forth and so on. And if you don't have housing, you must go to a halfway house. In California, you can be paroled with no housing whatsoever.
From prison to tent, in other
Prison
words.
to tent.
Wow.
And we have a lot of that going on.
I didn't realize that other states had that requirement.
They do, yes.
And I don't know which article you were reading, because I probably didn't see it, but there was an article in the LA Times yesterday about kind of following the path of an unhoused white man who had moved here from Virginia, I think.
I read that one also.
Yeah, and he was an example of that because he came out of prison and never really quite got housed.
Right. And one of the things with guys coming out of prison also is, and I think you and I have touched on this before, some of the shelters are so horrible and so nightmarish that many of them would prefer a tent over the shelter. And to a person who has housing and has never been unhoused, it sounds like that's crazy. A bed is a bed. But some of these, I spent a lot of times in these shelters, touring them, talking to people, so forth and so on. And I won't name one specifically that I was at a couple of weeks ago for 3 or 4 hours. And I thought I was back in prison. I mean, it is a horrible place. And as I talked to some of the fellows who were there, people are raped in these shelters. People are robbed in these shelters. So one of the things I would impress upon our great mayor, who gets an A for what she's done so far, is that we need to transform the environment of the shelters, because let's face it, we're going to have shelters. We have to have them.
More on first.
Hopefully.
Sorry about that little
Okay.
technical glitch. It wasn't a hint.
All right.
No, it was not a hint.
Hopefully, because in church now, when we hear music, that means you're going
It's
too
like
long.
the Apollo, right? Here comes the guy with the hook. No, that was just
Right.
that was a technical glitch. But yeah, and before I forget, the mayor will be on the show tomorrow. We are launching a new segment called Mornings with the Mayor, and she's agreed to join me once a month
Wonderful.
on this radio station.
Wonderful for her and for you. So she's doing a tremendous job. But one of the things we need to do, I mean, let's face it, we're going to have shelters. It is a part of temporary housing, but we need to change the culture and the nature of the shelters. And the people who work in those shelters need to be sensitized to the people that they're working with. I addressed a couple of employees at the shelter that I was at last week, and I went to the supervisor, and I said, why is this person even working here? She talks to people as if they're less than her. She's very condescending, very mean-spirited, and I lodged a complaint. And she was gone that same day. She lost her job. But she's just bitter like that. And when you're working with people who are already, their lives are turned upside down, the last thing they want is to have someone talking down to them. The other part of it is, we know that shelters have to have structure, but you don't want to have so much structure that it gives a person, makes them feel like they're back in prison again. And that's what I've seen in a lot of the shelters here in Los Angeles.
It's interesting because I think I told you this. I have a friend that works, with the homeless, and his job is to try to place people. And a lot of people, I mean, and I've talked to others in and out of, on both sides of that table, meaning unhoused folks and people that work in those environments. And they tell me, well, yeah, but some of it is that these folks will never, that some of the unhoused will never be happy until they have a 1-bedroom apartment or, or a studio apartment with no roommates, no rules, all expenses paid. And their position is that the people are being too choosy.
Well, as with everything, there's always there are three sides to every story. There's their side, my side, and then there's the truth.
Right.
And it's normally somewhere in the middle. They're not lying about that. There are many people who are homeless who want a 1-bedroom apartment in their name, and they want it now. They don't want to share a bedroom with anyone. They don't want to share housing. They want everything, and they want it now. That's.
I mean, and I'm not mad at that, honestly.
Right,
I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting that.
But I remember when I first started the work, I was saying to a guy, and I remember his name, Eric. I won't call his last name, but I said to him, "You're sleeping in a tent, my brother. I'm getting you housing in the morning. You're going to be in a bedroom that has 2 beds, not a shelter. And it's a 5-bedroom house. It's nice. I showed him pictures of it. I own my own bedroom. And it just, so I really had to learn early on. And there's 2 sides to what I was saying earlier about some of the staff that doesn't know how to talk to people. Lots of homeless people are mean, are bitter, are hurting, are angry. So so in order to work with the homeless, you have to be special, put it that way. You have to have some life experiences that put you in a position. I do a lot of feedings. I'll pull up in my church van and we'll get out and feed 200 or 300 people. And lots of people, when they watch the videos, some of my pastor friends say, man, I couldn't do that. And how do you do that? Because I'll say, don't get behind me. The lines will go all over the place, and I'll have to stop it. I'll shut the whole line down. I spent too much time in prison to have you behind me. Don't get behind me. But I know how to talk to them, and it's not condescending, it's not angry, it's not mean, but it is tough, because you got to be a tough cookie to deal with all the different kinds of people that you have to deal with on the streets. But at the same time, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if they know that you really care about them, they'll work with you.
I mean, and I think that's a disease of our social services sector. That condescension and and I don't know where that's coming from. It's part of my hesitation about people putting all these restrictions on paperwork for reparations, because I don't want to see reparations turn into welfare 2.0, where people have to get humiliated, delayed, and treated like crap just to get something that they need. So I definitely think that's, I have no doubt that goes on, and I'm glad you're calling people out. I hope that lady doesn't end up in a tent. But the thing is, I don't know how you fix that, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's kind of like what we say about police departments. It becomes a culture. How do you change a culture?
Absolutely. Well, I think one person at a time. I mean, it starts with, again, we have this great mayor, and some people would think that perhaps I'm on her payroll because I brag on her so much. Not only am I not on her payroll, as I've told you before, I've never sought a grant from the city, and if they offer me one, I would decline. I just like to see someone who has passion about what they're doing, who actually gives a darn, and when you come from the background that she comes from, which was a background of community service and not just a polished politician, it just means a lot to me. But I think that organization by organization, tour by tour, program by program, we have to change the culture of the people who work in homeless services. I mean, what I did last week, in the grand scheme of things, was very, very small. But for the 300 or 400 people in that shelter, it meant a lot, because they were all complaining about this woman. But nobody listened, because these are just the homeless people. But when a pastor that they respected, for whatever reason they do, comes in and tells the director, this is a problem. I just watched this woman interact with someone, and I'm a witness to what she did, and I have a platform, and I have a megaphone, and I'm going to put it out. Oh, no, we're going to get rid of her today. So I think that lots of us need to go to some of these shelters and begin to call out what we see and not dismiss every complaint from a homeless person as someone who's just crying or wants too much, because as we just said earlier, there is a little bit of that also. But people have to treat you in a humane way. And what you said earlier about the reparations, I totally agree with. Don't humiliate me.
Right.
Don't belittle
That's
me.
kind of like the opposite of what we're trying to do with reparation, repair.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue the conversation. I want to run some of these local stories that, some we already started to touch on, run them by you. You just reminded me way back when I first started doing radio in Los Angeles, I interviewed a teenager who was unhoused. And he said to me, if I ask you for money or if I approach you, at least tell me no. At least look me in the eye and treat me as a human being. Don't act like I'm not there, because that makes me want to go around the corner and rob you because you're not treating me like a human being. And all these years later, that just stuck with me. Every person deserves to be at least acknowledged as a human being and interacted as you would with any other human being, even if it's to say, no, I'm not going to give you $1 or whatever it might be. And so I think that's kind of the spirit of what you're talking about in terms of, the way the culture needs to change inside these services.
Absolutely.
And on our streets as well. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I can't wait for what's next. Even with higher stroke risk due to atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Eliquis, the Pixaban tablets, reduces stroke risk. It's the #1 cardiologist prescribed blood thinner.
Don't stop taking prescription Eliquis without talking to your doctor, as this may increase your risk of stroke. Eliquis can cause serious and in rare cases fatal bleeding. Don't take Eliquis if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or have antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or take longer for bleeding to stop. A spinal injection while on Eliquis increases risk of blood clots, which may cause paralysis, the inability to move. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or unusual bruising, or if you have tingling, numbness, or muscle weakness. It may increase your bleeding risk if you take medicines such as aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners. Tell your doctor about all planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Attention taxpayers, ready for some bad news? With $80 billion in new funding from Congress, the IRS has launched their most aggressive hiring campaign ever to ramp up enforcement. If you're ignoring your taxes, don't delay another minute, because your paycheck, your bank account, even your home or business could already be at risk. Now, here's the good news. Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm, can get to work immediately helping to protect you from the IRS. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Their tax attorneys and licensed professionals are experts at resolving tax problems. Let them help determine if you qualify for the Fresh Start Initiative or other powerful IRS tax assistance programs. Take control. Call Optima Tax Relief now for a free consultation.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest spot.
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580.
House is back.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action is the youth component of the impactful CBO, known as the Community Coalition. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action has chapters at almost every South LA high school. Say Yeah, as they are popularly known, is located at 80th and Vermont, but serves young people all over South LA. Under the COCO umbrella, they train youth organizers, help underserved scholars prepare for college, and work with students to help them gain admission to top universities. South Central Youth Empowered Through Action fosters teen activism, where young people have led campaigns moving tens of millions of dollars to South LA schools and forcing officials to make AP classes available to students in under-resourced institutions. SCES scholars have taken part in the March on Washington, been published in major news outlets, and been elected to city council. Long before she was mayor, Karen Bass started the program when she founded the Community Coalition. To donate, volunteer, or enroll a student in South Central Youth Empowered Through Action, please visit cocsouthla.org. cocsouthla.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Race, social justice, sports, politics, art, music, culture. We do it all on the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show. If you're not tuning in, then you are definitely missing out. It's the D.L. Hughley Afternoon Show, weekdays from 2 to 4 only on unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
Like a brand new flavor in your head. Yeah. Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
Pastor Sherman Manning is in the studio with me, and we're just talking about all things local. But, of course, one of the towering issues for us is the issue of the unhoused. And it seems like we are making some progress, but it's such a huge problem. Honestly, I sometimes worry for our mayor because I feel like some people think that she should wave a magic wand and fix everything. And of course, that's not possible, not for one human being.
And then there are also people who are banking on hoping that she will fail. And what is the definition of failure? And for example, and I don't know how politically correct you all are here at this great station of KBLA, but you have a preacher on, and so I really believe in free speech, and so
so does Tavis Smiley.
Okay.
We got all kinds of
and
folks.
we love Tavis. There's only
Some
one Tavis
more
Smiley.
politically correct than
only
others.
Only one Tavis Smiley, only one. And I always tell you, and I'll say it for the 5th time, when I was in prison, I went to bed to Tavis every night. 1 o'clock in the morning, he came on. But Rick Caruso, for example, when he was running for mayor, he contacted me personally several times, even offered me some things from our organization if I could get other pastors to get behind him over Mayor Bass. She knows, as I've told her the story, gave me a cell number and all of that. Met with him, never endorsed him, never really. But here's my point. I said to him, when you lose, why don't you volunteer to become a homelessness czar for Mayor Bass? You don't need the money. In 8 years, you could run yourself if you wanted to. If you're really that concerned about the homeless in the city, why don't you do that? I'll give you some consideration, so forth and so on. As you see, he's not doing anything, to my knowledge, with the mayor. I believe that a guy like Rick Caruso, who's actually a good guy in many ways, but I believe that he is sitting back in the corner hoping that she fails so that he can run again in 4 years against her. And I think as long as we have this kind of partisan pettiness and everybody wants to be in charge and everyone wants the power, we're never going to really get much done. Because I agree with you, there's no magic wand that can be waved. This is the homeless capital of the United States, if not the world. It took us a long time, Dominique, to get here, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. So I will say to the mayor, breathe. You're doing a great job. You can't do it all. Rome was not built in a day alone. And anyone who wants to criticize her, rather than criticizing, get in, roll up your sleeves, and do what you do. Because all of us can do something.
Yeah, only got a minute and a half till news, traffic, and sports here. When I ask you about this judge, it ordered a house. There were 23 RVs in the backyard of a house in Sylmar Park there. Apparently, they were being charged somewhere around $500 a month just to keep the RVs there. And it had been red tagged. Neighbors complaining about squalid conditions. The RVs are going to be a big challenge, right?
Oh, definitely. Because they're all over the place. And many of them are not in working conditions. And, it's two sides to the story. If you wake up in the morning and you see a row of RVs in front of your house, how's it going to make you feel?
Yeah, I wouldn't be happy with that. I'm not going to lie. But I don't see why we can't
create
a space with showers and sewage hookups it doesn't become a squalid situation.
I'm with you.
I don't do good with squalor. Yeah.
No, they got to go somewhere.
But people have to go somewhere. You can't just throw people out. And from what I understand, a lot of those folks don't even own those RVs. They're renting non-working RVs from people who
It's a whole other phenomenon.
Economy. Yes.
There's so many layers, Dominique, to this homeless situation that we have that it can be, quite frankly, very frustrating and very discouraging. I know you're almost going to a break. I gave you one guest to get on, and you got you.
We'll talk about that after news, traffic, and sports.
But I got a new guest for you coming.
Okay, all right.
You got to get on.
I'm here for it.
You're gonna like him though.
I like the.
I know you like the other one also.
Pastor Sherman Manning is my guest. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
We thank you for joining us on this Monday morning. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A Christian group that is trying to stop a pro-Trump rally from being held on public property in the Las Vegas area may be getting its wish. Faithful America, which says it opposes Christian nationalism, organized a petition asking the city of North Las Vegas to stop the Reawaken America tour from holding an event in late August. Prosecutors trying to convict an entertainer turned suspected murderer are dealing with a setback. A mistrial was declared over the weekend in Florida in African-American rapper YNW Melly's double murder trial. The 24-year-old was accused of killing two friends 5 years ago. Jurors deliberated for 3 days but couldn't unanimously agree on a verdict. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Looking for a late night spot to get the crew together? 3 words, Buffalo Wild Wings. They've got drinks and apps starting at $4 from 10 p.m. till close. B-dubs, where late night food and drinks start at $4. Cheers to that. Limited time at participating locations. Offers, days, and times may vary. Drink responsibly. Void or prohibited. Tax and fees extra.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The NBA no longer has a black majority owner. The league's board of governors formally approved the sale of the Charlotte Hornets, ending a 13-year run for Michael Jordan. Jordan was the NBA's only black majority owner. The Hornets now belong to a couple of rich guys named Rick Schnall and Gabe Plotkin. Jordan paid $275 million for the Hornets in 2010. He and his investment team are taking home $3 billion. The Hornets made the playoffs only 3 times under Jordan's watch and were bounced in the first round each time. They won only 41% of their games, the 4th worst record in the league in that 13-year stretch. Florida A&M football coach Willie Simmons suspended all football activities at the HBCU school until further notice. An unauthorized rap video was made in the team's locker room. The administration is investigating. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here for KBLA Talk 1580. We're live in Los Angeles at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. And I'm speaking to some of the attendees today to see why it was so important for them to be here.
Yeah, this is Lathan and Tyler. Main reason that's very important for me to be here is just to leave a legacy for my kids. Black wealth, generational wealth is what we need in our community, you know. Oh, Chase, someone has to take the lead. They're showing, big business like Chase cares, and they're putting their money where their mouth is at. So it's good to see, big institution like Chase, giving a lifting hand, to the community, and you got to respect that. It makes me want to bank with Chase, and give them another look. If I go to another institution, I actually see what Chase is doing for the community.
That's right. Chase is doing their part to help advance Black wealth. For more money support, tune in every day from 12 to 2 to KBLA Talk 1580's Midday Money Chain, right here.
Follow the leader. KBLA Talk 1580. Follow the leader.
If you're not following KBLA Talk 1580 on all of our socials, then you're missing out. Download our app and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at KBLA 1580.
That's right.
Again, you can find all of our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black. Follow the leader. Following the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like Sprinklers in the Rain and Leaky Faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
What's up, LA? The Reparationist community got something real special going down in historic Lamert Park. August 12th, 2023. This event is sponsored by Reparations United and Black Pact, fighting for justice and empowering our community. Together, we can make moves. We have an insane lineup for y'all. The sultry Rotimi, the king of LA, The Game, smooth Eric Benet, and none other than the powerful sounds of blackness. Also, we have some special guests in the house. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, State Senator Stephen Bradford, LA's beloved Councilwoman Heather Hutt, and many more. They're bringing their passion and leadership to the stage. Mark your calendars, August 12th, 2023, Lamert Park. Let's come together, support each other, and make a difference. Peace, love, and reparations benefit concert and unity rally. Be there or be left out. Produced by Tara Perry of Black Pact and Cam Howard of Reparations United.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Pastor Sherman D. Manning is my partner in politics today. So you brought up a guest that you want to bring on the show, and the one that you previously brought, who was part of the group that actually sued LA City and County around houselessness. And you're right. I had a lot of tough questions. I appreciated the conversation.
Right.
I just, I always need to know, I always have to follow the money, and I always need transparency.
Right. That was Paul Webster. I don't know him well. What little I know of him, he has very good intentions. I suggested Elizabeth Mitchell, attorney, the lead attorney in the case, and she was not available. So she asked you to take him instead, and you did. I thought you had very pragmatic and tough questions, and I mean, but that's what you're supposed to do, if you ask me. I mean, there've been a couple of times you've asked me some tough questions, so it goes with the territory. But the other person I was thinking of is Victor James, and Victor James is the man who taught me how to house the homeless. I remember as if it were yesterday when I saw a spot, on Broadway that had about 10 tents. And I said to my son, Jose, I'm going to empty that area. I'm going to house everybody there. He says, how are you going to do that? I said, I don't have a clue. Don't know how to do it. And so someone, Veronica Lewis, introduced me to Victor James. And at that time, Victor James was with an organization that you don't like so much. I'm saying that jokingly, but you've heard good and bad about it. HOPICS. Homeless Outreach Program Integrated Care Services. Victor was program manager at that time. This is 7 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and I can't say I don't like it. I don't know enough about it.
Right. He went on to become the associate director, and now he's left them, and he's the director of another organization. But Victor James taught me how to house the homeless, and he knows more about homelessness in Los Angeles than anyone I know. Concisely, he started sweeping. He was working on the midnight shift in a shelter. He was the janitor, and he started watching the way they house people, and he said to a supervisor one day, I wonder if I could do that. And she said, well, you would have to be trained, this, that, and the other. Long story short, now he's at the top of the totem pole, but he started as a janitor. He's compassionate, he's caring, he talks like a Baptist preacher, although he's not, and he is a good man. We have housed people together over and over. I came up with the term post-traumatic street disorder, but Victor taught me what it meant. He just didn't coin the phrase. He's not a preacher. And we had two people sitting in his office, and we were trying to house the two of them. One guy, Dominique, the minute we found housing for him, he's, I'm having chest pain. So we called the ambulance. The ambulance came. They said there was nothing wrong with him. And he said, can I come back tomorrow? I said, sure. And I said, I'll take you back. He said, no, I'll walk back. So he walked 3 miles back, and Victor explained to me that this guy was afraid to be housed, that a part of him wanted to do it, but he was afraid. So we became strategic. So what I did was I housed everybody around him, including his best friend. And so he was the last tent left right there on Broadway and about 49th alone. And then he called me one day and said, Pastor, I'm ready. And we got him housed. That's the Eric that I was talking about. But he was the first person that I tried to house, but he literally had physical reactions.
Yeah.
And I've had many people that way who want to be housed intellectually, but they have physical reactions because they've grown so accustomed to living on the streets, and it's deadly. One other thing we've never talked about, maybe we can talk about it some other time, gangs in Skid Row and in other homeless areas. I would be mesmerized when I would come up and see young guys in $200 sneakers and jogging suits, extremely clean, and they would be living in a tent. And I said, wow, I mean, I know you can shower every day in certain places, but there's something wrong with this. And so the more I did the work, I found out that in every homeless area, there are gang members who are there selling drugs and exploiting those who are actually homeless. So the population, the segment of the homeless population that knows how to get their check every month, whatever it might be, they owe all of that money to the drug dealers, because in every area, I could take you to Skid Row right now and take you straight to one of the nicest tents in that area, and there are 3 guys there, and all of them have on $200 shoes each. They are drug dealers, and they pretend to be homeless, and they mingle with the people, and they exploit them. And it puts us in a difficult position because I'm sort of anti-police. Don't tell anybody I said that, but I don't like them a lot, okay? And I don't trust them a lot, and I know there are some good cops, and there's some, we're supposed to say it all the time. There's some good cops. Yes, there are some, but it's hard to find them if you ask me. I remember I housed a Hispanic woman who told me that her boyfriend was raping her in a tent. He happened to be a gang member. He put a quote-unquote hit out on me. He was going to kill me for housing his woman. I show up at my church that Friday night. We have Friday night service every Friday night, 10306 Avalon, 7 o'clock p.m., shameless plug. I pull up at my church, and there are 3 police officers there. And I asked them, why are you there? Why are you here? And they said, we have been assigned to be at your church for the next 5 or 6 weeks or so. Why? I said, because, and they told me the story, the gang member that threatened to kill me because I got housing for his. So there's a lot of gangs, a lot of gangsterism, and a lot of drug dealing going on in the homeless population. So when we see these people strung out on crystal meth, on fentanyl, and all these other things, you have to ask yourself, where are they getting it from, and how are they getting it? And so the problem is complex, Dominique. And I'm not sure that the mayor, I'm sure she knows now, but when she came into it, that she knew about the dark underbelly of homelessness that I had no clue about until I started actually doing. I'd been housing people for 2 years before I even knew this, that there were, of course, some gang members are homeless, but not that. The ones who exploit and prey upon those who are homeless by situating themselves as if they're homeless themselves. So the problem is monumental. So we keep saying the mayor and the administration and all of that, this goes up to the president, the federal government, HUD, and you know that I always say pastors, because there's so much more that we can do. And we're meeting today at the Baptist Ministers Conference later on today. K.W. Toulis is the president. I love him. He is a great man, but the BMC could do more. And all of these other conferences in this city could do more. And Pastor Stanley Richard, my good friend, hope you're listening. James Perkins, great pastor, hope they're listening. But I want to say that to you about the game. And I want to ask you, were you familiar with this?
I know that there's drug dealing that goes on within the homeless, unhoused encampments and surrounding areas. I didn't know those folks were living in, pretending to be unhoused. Yes. And I do think that it seems like there's a whole cottage industry of exploiting the unhoused. I mean, the story I shared with you about the RVs. Mm-hmm. That lady had, 20 RVs in her yard. Now, those people, I'm sure they don't consider themselves unhoused. They're living in RVs. Right. But, I mean, those are folks that obviously cannot, for whatever reason, afford to get into an apartment. Mm-hmm. So to me, that's part of the issue, is this sort of exploitation of and exploitation of the unhoused, which crosses over to what you were talking about before about the way folks are treated in some of these agencies. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about. We never seem to have enough time. When we come forward, I do want to ask you about this. A fifth bus of migrants arriving from Texas to Los Angeles. Governor Greg Abbott, trying to show us a thing or two. Clearly it's a political thing, saying, oh, you want to be a sanctuary city? We're going to send you all of our migrants. So 44 folks arrived on Saturday morning at Union Station. And that was 4 days after another bus of 44 arrived here. I want to ask you, when we come forward, your thoughts about that. And also, to me, this seems like it contributes to the challenges of the unhoused. Now you've got 88 people in the last 8 days that have to find a place to live and resources. And, I just want to hear your thoughts when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
The $5 cravings box is back at Taco Bell, and it's the real thing. We're talking a chalupa supreme, a cheesy, beefy 5-layer burrito, a crunchy taco, cinnamon twist, and a medium drink, all for just $5. That's a lot of food for not a lot of dollars. In other words, a wise business deal, like greeting clients with a firm handshake and a delicious 3-course meal. That's only $5. Order your $5 cravings box on the Taco Bell app today. At limited participating U.S. Taco Bell locations for a limited time only while supplies last. Contact local store for price and participation which vary. Drinks exclude freezes. Price excludes tax.
The family of Keenan Anderson is suing the city of Los Angeles for $100 million. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. Keenan Anderson, a high school English teacher that was visiting Los Angeles from Washington, D.C., was tragically killed at the hands of the Los Angeles Police Department in January of this year. His family, alongside civil rights and personal injury attorney Benjamin Crump and Carl Douglas, have announced a $100 million lawsuit against the city of Los Angeles. Crump and Douglas are representing Keenan Anderson's son, Sincere Anderson, and his mother, Gabrielle Hansel. The family is suing for civil rights violations, assault and battery, false imprisonment, and negligence on the part of the LAPD officers. The family of Keenan Anderson and attorneys Crump and Douglas want it to be known that this is only part of a systemic issue within the fabric of police departments everywhere. Have you heard about Lendistry? Lendistry is a national Black-led small business lender that is headquartered right here in LA. Once you've started your business, Lendistry provides flexible financing options starting at $50,000 to help you access the affordable capital needed to grow. Whether financing is needed to increase working capital, acquire a business, purchase inventory and equipment, or refinance debt, Lendistry has a solution for you. Lending products range from from traditional business term loans and non-revolving lines of credit to SBA 7A loans and commercial real estate financing. Lendistry's pre-application process is simple and does not impact your credit score. Visit lendistry.com/KBLA to learn more and to get started with an application right from the website.
On your period, sudden gushes happen without warning. But now, you can say goodbye to stand-up gush fears, thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology. It absorbs gushes 2 times faster than the leading store brand and gives you up to 100% leak-free protection. Hello, clean and comfortable with Always Fear No Gush.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with Pastor Sherman Manning, and I asked, because of your work with the Unhoused and your perspective having been on both sides of the aisle when it comes to law enforcement and also, houselessness, how you perceive this dumping of migrants here in Los Angeles, and they're doing it in other cities as well, but we're talking about LA right now.
Yeah, I think it's cruel. I think it's inhumane. I think I'll shoot off a letter to Governor Abbott tomorrow morning to tell him how unchristian that is. Here's a guy that I've seen on a number of occasions in the Potter's House at Bishop T.D. Jakes' church, and he says he's a Christian. I'll never question anyone's Christianity, but I can question actions. What he did and what he's doing is inhumane, and I see that he's raised $415,397 in donations to pay for the transfer of migrants. Wouldn't it be nice if he raised that kind of money to house those migrants in his city, or to if he sent some of that money to L.A. to help us deal with the situation that we're dealing with? So it's wrong. It's inhumane. It makes no sense. It is a political stunt.
Yeah, well, so far they've moved 22,000 people out of Texas and into cities run by Democrats, and then they'll surely turn around and point the finger and say, you are not handling your houseless situation well because you're Democrats, not because we're sending thousands of people with no resources who may have family, by the way. I mean, it's possible some have family here, but the hypocrisy of that
and the federal government is suing Abbott today anyway for what he's doing with the wall there in his area, the border. He has some buoys put up there that are deadly. People are dying trying to cross over, and the federal government has given him until yesterday to move them, and he said he's not going to move them, so they're taking him to court. So Abbott is there's something wrong with Abbott.
I mean, it's almost like we're having a civil war right now in the courts, right?
Yes.
Because you see the same thing. The extreme conservative Supreme Court orders Alabama to draw another black district, and they're refusing.
They refuse.
So it's like,
what's the remedy? That's what I've been wondering.
Right.
What is the remedy?
So now we have a situation where they're not even following the orders of their own party. I wanted to ask you about this too. It's been really hot, and apparently it's going to stay hot. What we're looking at is increasing heat in the days ahead, along with thunderstorms. Of course, fire risk and all that. But I think about the unhoused, as the temperatures are hitting the triple digits. That's got to be dangerous. It's got to be miserable. If you haven't had a shower, you can't get out of the heat. I mean, I don't have air in my house, but I live in LA. We're not in triple digits most times. What should be done to help unsheltered people during these heat waves, which are getting increasingly more common?
Yeah, you put me on the spot, but I think cooling centers. I think that we should open some cooling centers, which could be stood up overnight. And my preacher friends are going to get upset with me now, but I think some of these churches ought to have makeshift cooling spaces for the unhoused to come in. When it gets that hot, that it becomes dangerously deadly to people. I know that the church is for worship and all of these other good things that Christ taught us about. But in St. Matthew 25, I was hungry and you fed me not. I was in prison and you visited me not. I think that many of these churches have educational halls and other halls and areas that they can use to bring 20 or 30 people in and allow them to be cool, allow them to be hydrated before. And we could do it in shifts because people are dying right now. And so that would be my emergency response to this problem. We have to have cooling centers, and we can use buildings that are not being in use. The mayor could, I'm looking for a term where the mayor takes over something that, not commandeer, where the mayor can use an emergency power to take over a building that's not being used and use it because there are many buildings in downtown LA that are empty, and many of them have air. And I know that for a fact because I toured these places. On Skid Row, there's a building, beautiful building, has been sitting there for 2 or 3 years, and nothing is in there, nothing, zero.
Pastor Sherman Manning, when we come forward, I'm going to hand you the mic so you can talk about whatever you want. I know you have probably some calls to action and eye-openers for us when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's peanut butter cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for education as a right, not a privilege. Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science is a private, non-profit, community-founded, student-centered university committed to cultivating diverse health profession leaders who are dedicated to social justice and health equity for underserved populations. CDU does this through outstanding education, clinical service, and community engagement. Recently, Charles Drew University made history by opening only the 5th medical school at an historically black university. Congratulations, South LA, and congratulations to the dean of the medical school, Dr. Deborah Protho-Stith. CDU is now training doctors and providing $90 million in annual economic benefit to Watts and surrounding neighborhoods. To apply for medical school, get more information, or sign your child up for the Junior Doctors Saturday School program, visit cdrewu.edu. That's cdrewu.edu. At KBLA, we are dedicated to equity in education and ending healthcare apartheid, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Pastor Sherman Manning of the Yes We Can Worship Center is our guest this hour. They're at 10306 Avalon, and every Friday at 7 p.m. they have church.
We have church
and dinner.
Yes, we have church, and we have hot catered meals, and this food is better than M&M's, to be quite frank with you. Sister Darlene, Sister's Soul Food Catering. I mean, this is really, really good food, and it is every Friday night. It is a powerful service. We have a 4-piece band, and I'm just very excited about that Friday night service, and I need volunteers, so people who are sitting around on Friday evening and not doing anything, even those of you going to the club, by the time we finish, you'll still have time to make it to the club. And maybe you'll hear something in the service that might not make you want to go to the club that night. But it's every Friday night at 7 o'clock p.m. And we're feeding people all week long. We're housing all week long. And I'm calling on pastors. I'm calling on my friend, Pastor K.W. Toulis, Baptist Ministers Conference, Dr. Gaddis, all of the conferences. Let's come together and not just stand with the mayor and pray for her, but let's put all hands on deck. Let's utilize our resources to help get homeless people off the streets, to hydrate them and to feed them and to make a difference in this city. This is what Martin Luther King Jr. was doing before he was assassinated. This is what Jesus talked about. It's more than just preaching and singing and shouting and raising money. We have to put our hands on the gospel plow and help the people who need help right now.
You got a couple minutes, Pastor Sherman Manning. What do you want to leave us with?
God is good. I love
all the time.
I love this station. I love what Tavis is doing here. I love what you're doing. Miles is great. Just a great place to be. And I hope that this station continues to grow. And I'm excited about you all. I mean, and we need it now more than ever before, because, Dominique, I've spent most of my life in a spirit of ecumenicity. My church is multicultural. I believe in black folks working with white folks, Jewish folks, so forth and so on. I have never thought as black as I think right now. And that may sound like a strange statement, but when I see Donald Trump, when I see the politics of the right-wing conservatives talking about a two-tiered justice system, one for Donald Trump and one for the rest of us, that's crazy. Black folks have been dealing with a two-tier justice system all of our lives. The rich get richer, the poor get prison. One for the rich, one for the poor. And so there's just so much going on now that if we've ever needed black radio, if we've ever needed black media, if we've ever needed black pastors to come together, we need it now. You talked about the Civil War that we're really fighting. We're fighting civil rights all over again. I mean, I think it was right that after Obama, Trump's election was a backlash. And if we're not careful in this country, not only will we lose our democracy, but think about Reconstruction and all the other things that have happened. When you look at guys like DeSantis and Abbott that you just mentioned earlier, many of these guys want dictatorships and authority. They're telling us that we benefited from slavery. So they that know not their history are destined to repeat it. So if they're trying to say that we benefited from slavery, then why not enslave them again? They'll get some benefits. So we have to be very careful in this country. And so KBLA is needed. 1580, Tavis Smiley, you all are needed, and I'm glad to be here today. I want to thank you for inviting me. I hope you get Victor James on, and you gave me your word that one of these Fridays you're going to come to Yes We Can Worship Center.
Absolutely.
We ain't seen you yet. Okay.
Not yet.
We're still waiting. Mm-hmm. Okay, and we know you'll get there eventually, and we'll be glad to have you when you come.
Absolutely. I'll be glad to be there as well. Pastor Sherman Manning, thank you for inviting me, and thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
KBLA Talk 1580, you know the deal. News, traffic, sports, then you on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
We thank you for joining us on this Monday morning. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network, a Christian group that is trying to stop a pro-Trump rally from being held on public property in the Las